This next category is a fan favorite, and it's easy to see why. Because did you know that all the anime you watch actually has a very a little shorter anime in front of it that's 90 seconds long? Here are your nominees for best opening of 2022.
And the winner of the jury ranking is Ranking of Kings. And the public chose Chainsaw Man's Kickback.
Joining me today is fan favorite Replay Value. Hi, Replay.
I don't know if I'm a fan favorite, but I appreciate that.
You at least have me as a fan favorite, and Chris from the
Feeling is
jury.
mutual.
Hey man, nice to see you guys.
Nice to see. So, looking at this, I don't think these results are too surprising. But is there anything that really stands out to you that you want to talk about?
I'm just personally shocked that Mixed Nuts isn't the best OP for either of these categories. I guess I'm not surprised that the public chose Kickback. It's a phenomenal OP. But Ranking of Kings #1, the jury is slipping, Chris. What's up with that?
Yeah, we had a lot of positive thoughts about Ranking of Kings. We thought in particular it was really impressive on a production level. There's a lot of really excellent use of lighting and shadows in the composites. And the painterly aesthetic, along with the fantastic animation, just makes for this fantastical product that sort of feels like a storybook in a lot of ways. Along with that, it conveys this kind of epic storyline where there's a lot of different character moments and story moments that all sort of coincide with one another and adds a sense of weight to the world itself, almost as if the world itself is a living thing. And that was something that was very appreciated among the jurors.
I really did notice No, go ahead.
No, Wilson, I insist.
I really did notice the storybook kind of aesthetic you mentioned. I when I was watching it, I could only think about how much information is packed into this thing. You have a complete beginning, middle, and end, and while you traverse that, you see so many different places and locations. At the end of the OP, I was like almost exhausted.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive what they managed to do in 90 seconds, to be honest. And it's not only the visual aspect either, because they sort of integrate the lyrical composition into the presentation as well, as we see shots such as Boji walking around with the lantern at the beginning of his journey, as the lyrics start talking about his small hands and what he's going to do with them, and sort of representing this adventure he's setting out on. So it sort of coincides both in the musical aspect and the visual aspects, which is really cool.
I thought the Osama ranking OP. I mean, impressive use of light, as you said, Chris. Both like within the production, but also as a motif throughout. It's kind of your linking storybook thread, narrative thread for the whole thing. That the opening shot is a total highlight when the shadows form a crown. I thought that was phenomenal. Yeah, I just thought it was just great execution on a simple idea. But I mean, not to really sing the praises of one OP above all the others, but Mixed Nuts, man. The Spy X Family OP, it's not even the Bump of Chicken OP, which I have a personal preference for, but the spy thriller aesthetic going into the child book story drawing, and then reintegrating spy thriller again. I mean, Chris, what are your thoughts on this OP? I thought it was a total banger from beginning to end.
Real quickly, remind me, because I always get this OP mixed up with Creepy Nuts, which is I think it's an ED for recall it. But this is the one that goes like Kakushi go to dareke sugi hagi dareke no home,
Exactly.
you know that one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Mixed Nuts was sort of an interesting case study within the jury, where a lot of people really liked how it presented a character study regarding Anya and her worldview, which is what the whole sort of childish comic aesthetic is all about, as we get sort of represented with the world of Spy X Family and how Anya sees the world. On top of that, it integrates a lot of credits using various objects, such as Anya's favorite peanuts or her favorite show, and that sort of enriches the entire visual presentation. So there was a lot of visual aspects that the jury really liked, but there was also a lot of divisive aspects about Mixed Nuts, such as the music. It has this very heavy bass line that leads the instrumentals and creates an air of mystery. And that really fits the subject matter of the show and creates this tense atmosphere. But at the same time, we sort of felt like it was a little bit lacking as a standalone musical number, and the vocals don't really stand out compared to something like Ranking of Kings or Bocce the Rock. So it ended up being on the lower end of things because of aspects like that.
I think the jury's taste has to be brought into question if they don't think the vocal performance was fucking killer in this OP.
It spawned like a TikTok meme of people singing it. It's so good.
Yeah, Chris. Also, given that we're talking about the jury, when you guys are looking at the OPs, like clearly there's some kind of percentage breakdown on like what everyone is valuing in terms of like visuals, song, thematic inclusion, production value. Would you say that what percentage breakdown is the jury looking at, or is it kind of just fluid? And are there some people who are adhering to a rigid structure as opposed to a just like a vibes one? What's kind of the vibe there?
It's a little bit hard to break down how the jury views these, because as you bring up, it's rather fluid, and I sort of feel like it's a situation where we try to look at the complete package and how the various aspects of an opening coincide with each other and bring up each other's strengths. Of course, there's a lot of focus on the visuals because there's more to focus on with the visuals compared to the song. But we still consider a lot of aspects with the song, such as instrumental structure, vocal performance, lyrical performance, lyrical composition. But there's also a lot of people that focus on production aspects, such as we mentioned with Ranking of Kings, but also narrative and character aspects, where an opening explores various character ideas or various narrative ideas. So it's a bit hard to sort of break it down into percentages, but generally speaking, there's jurors that focus on different things, and we try to bring that into a collective whole.
Would you say that the public values a little bit more of like just the visual flash in the music? I mean, for me, Chainsaw Man's Kickback is the epitome of that as far as what the nominees were. Like, this is a complete banger track, and the animation hits a flow state in the middle of that battle scene. I mean, it's just killer, banger from start to finish. To me, it seems like Kickback is the epitome of just... sorry, I'm losing track of thought there. Chainsaw, just Kick Back is just the absolute banger. And yeah, sorry, I fucked that up.
No, you're fine. Now, if I do remember correctly, Chris, I actually I slightly recollect a moment where there was a bit of a divisiveness within the jury of Chainsaw Man's OP, just because this is the OP that has like 30 movie references thrown in there. I remember there being sort of a discussion on whether or not they actually added to the OP, or whether or not it was valuable, or if it was just randomly done for no reason. What did you think about that? I mean, it seems like that didn't make too much of a problem, considering it did get second in the jury. But could you expand on that?
Yeah, at the very beginning of the jury part of the awards, we had a pretty long discussion about what the movie references actually does for the opening, and how they interact with Chainsaw Man as a work, as well as the opening itself. And I feel like there were some people who felt like the movie references were above their head a little bit, since they didn't really know them. But we sort of managed to have a discussion where we explained all the movie references. We went in depth on them. We used other analysis videos to refer to them. And the jury as a whole sort of came around on them and felt like they really enhance the opening, because they tie into Fujimoto's love for cinema, as well as the fact that they're utilized really, really well to reflect the personalities of the various characters within Chainsaw Man.
Another thing I noticed is that we have in this kind of branch of awards a lot of very notable series. Like in drama, we had Legend of Galactic Heroes, and here, of course, we have like kind of the penultimate, or at least I think penultimate. At this point, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, who knows?
Of Attack on Titan. I'm surprised to see that it got so low in the jury, and I'm also kind of surprised it got so high on the public side. Would you guys mind speaking on that for a little bit?
Yeah, I'm with you, Wilson. I think this is the worst Attack on Titan OP in a long time. In fact, I think this is actually just the worst Attack on Titan theme, period. I think they just went too far in the opposite direction from Final Season Part 1's OP, which was, just a total thematic and like symbolic OP, and they just decided, we're gonna go with, we're gonna show the characters doing things and reference things that are happening either in previous seasons or this season, and it just feels flat. The whole thing felt very flat to me. The song just absolutely nothing for me. I was really, really disappointed to see it on here. I'm not gonna lie, and really high in the public ranking. I guess the AOT. Just strength of its previous OPs is still carrying it. I'm just surprised.
Yeah, we sort of agreed as a jury that at least in a musical aspect, the Rumbling was a little bit of a disappointment. We had a lot of issues with how subdued the regular vocals felt compared to other sim productions, such as from the Shingeki no Bahamut series, for example. But the main problem we had with the vocals was actually the unclean vocals, where they sort of failed on a technical level due to implementing death screams and more subdued unclean vocals in a way that sort of felt slapped together, and they don't really transition into one another particularly well. And that sort of created a very, very large disconnect in the musical aspect. And we also felt like the imagery was kind of messy, and they were very poorly composited, and they don't really correlate to one another particularly well. But despite all that, we kind of liked it because of some interesting ideas within the opening, such as the pretty claustrophobic close-ups of various people within the opening, or the transitional usage of leaves towards the very end. So we didn't really think the Rumbling was particularly bad. It was just worse than everything else we had on the list.
Yeah,
Now,
I guess I just think it was disappointing. Sorry.
No, you're good. Now, considering that... Oh, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I guess I just thought it was disappointing, especially when there were really strong OPs like Paper Sky, which was the Tokyo 24th Ward OP that didn't get ranked, and then also obviously the Mob Psycho Season 3 1 OP, which is a shocking non-inclusion, in my opinion.
I'm actually very surprised about Mob as well. I thought that the public were going to nominate it for sure. So I was pretty surprised to see that they left it off. But as a jury, we sort of felt like this Mob OP was a pretty large step down from previous ones. There were a lot of parts of the visuals that seemed to lack in cohesion, and they sort of felt like a random inclusion, such as, for example, Mob randomly spinning around at the chorus drop. We really liked the Reagan cut that precedes it, but the transition into the Mob cut and how it sort of feels like it doesn't really do anything sort of encaptured our problems with the Mob opening, and it just sort of felt like they really lost a lot from Tachikawa no longer boarding the Mob openings. So that was a pretty big problem for us as a jury.
I can see why it's a problem for you guys, given that y'all really liked, the encouragement of the climb OP and the do-it-yourself OP, which are kind of more low key compared to the Mob OP, which is like high energy, high excitement. Yeah, I guess I feel like the jury and the jury's vibe on. I mean, just look, Next Summit is 4 on jury, it's 10 on public. Do you think that this is? I feel like I'm going into too much now.
No, you're
Sorry.
good. We can finish this thought and then we should probably move
Okay.
on.
Chris, do you feel like I mean, obviously the jury is watching these OPs tens, if not hundreds of times over and over again, to create their ranking list. Well, meanwhile, the public is probably only watching them, once every episode for the show, maybe a few additional times when they're actually doing this ranking. Do you think that creates a disconnect between the OPs that just like hit you right out the gate, like your boy Kiming, which I think is very strong on first watch, but gets weaker on subsequent watches compared to the do-it-yourself or encouragement of the climb OPs, which are much more subdued and casual, but have a little bit more to chew in there in terms of their production, and in like small details that you pick up on watch number 7, 8, 22, etc.
I absolutely think that there's a little bit of a disconnect there. As a jury, we try to make sure we don't overcompensate in that regard, and try to make sure that we consider how the openings felt on a first watch, as well as how they sort of age with watches that occurs afterwards. And there's definitely something to be said for Chicka Chicka Bomb Bomb, for example, which is a pretty simplistic opening and one that really blows you away the first couple of times you see it, but that slows down a lot and loses a lot of its flair as you watch it several times. But there might be an argument for us over focusing a little bit on the kind of openings that has more to bite into, that you see more with every single time. You can also see that with the ED category nominating the Komi-san ED, which is pretty much the exact same thing, where every successive watch you have something new to see. So there's definitely something to be said for that, but I'd like to think that we do a pretty good job with trying to weigh that aspect up and not let it control the overall rankings.
Or alternatively, you can watch this segment over and over again.
Would you say that this segment has a lot of replay value?
I mean, it has at least one replay value.
Oh God.
All right, let's move on. We're going on to ending, guys. Thank you so much for being with us.